Everybody, welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to follow up on our discussion that we had in last episode where we talked about community, and we're going to hit on another attraction cheat code. Now, the one today is really how to leverage to get people to act in a certain way based in a group environment. Now, if you're watching this again after the COVID nightmare has passed, that we all dread and hate, then you know what? We're jealous of you, and we're just happy that we're there with you finally. But obviously, if you're watching this while we're going through this and when this is being recorded, we're really talking about how to take advantage of the situation, because there's always opportunities. No matter what terrible thing we have to go through, there's always an upside to what we're going through. So, I mean, if the stock market crashes, it means stocks are cheap, right? I was in the grocery store yesterday doing shopping, and they have this, like, what do they call it? It's like these little racks of things that are like half off because the products are discontinued, and normally they just don't have much good in there. But I went through yesterday and they had like a bunch of crazy stuff. It was like all the stuff that I normally buy, and it was like, well, not all, but all the stuff, a lot of stuff that I buy, and it was half off. And it was like, this is great. And, for the store, it sucks because, they can't, I guess they're not legally allowed to sell it because it's discontinued, but it's like it's new toothpaste. Like, all right, I'll take that. Or shampoo, or what have you. Or you go to the bakery and it's like on its second or third day, so they can't sell it, but it's like legitimately good baked goods. And so anyway, so there's opportunities in everything. It's just a matter of identifying that. So if there's anybody who's having trouble in one area, there's an option for somebody else. As bad as it is when somebody loses their home, and they have to short sale or there's foreclosure, it means that whoever, when they sell the home, it's going to be at a reduced price and somebody's going to pick it up really low. Back in 2011, it was at the bottom part of, the bottom point is real estate values of the zip code that I was living in. I was looking at buying this house, and this house right by the beach here in San Diego, it's right like blocks away from the beach here in San Diego. This house that normally goes for it's probably going for $750 or $800 right now. I ended up getting it because the real estate market was so bad. I got it for $380, which was nuts. And what happened is this person basically bought it for whatever reason and couldn't afford it. And so they tried to do a short sale, which is the worst thing ever because it takes forever, takes a long time, and it never sells. And so what happened is the bank, they needed the bank's approval to take a loss on the property. So if let's say their mortgage was $500 and they were selling it for $380, the bank's going to take a loss of $120,000 on it, but they'll agree to release the lien and sell it to the new owner. Well, the problem is the banks really didn't want to do that. But in this case, it took forever and they finally approved it, but by then the deal had fallen through. And so I happened to go by there because it was like the exact place that I was looking for a place. And we'd found this out. So we literally just got a copy of the purchase agreement that they had for the short sale for $380. And I'm like, I don't want to even mess with the bank reevaluating it. So my agent took a Sharpie and literally crossed out the original buyer's name. And we hand wrote my name in there. And because we knew, it didn't have to be reviewed. It was approved, but, the parties, the buyer had left at the time. And so here's this person taking a bath on it, but on the other side, you have a counterparty. And so I'm getting this place really cheap. And so every year that after I bought it, the value went up and up and up. And in California, due to Prop 13, you don't pay any more property taxes. You pay it on the purchase price, which was insane, right? And in a matter of 3 years, it almost doubled in value. So when we're looking at opportunity, even like the COVID, there's always going to be opportunities for things to take advantage of that aren't normally there. So for example, Amazon's obviously been the big winner in the COVID area. Streaming services have been the big winner. Zoom, pretty much, although they had some hacking issues early on. But there's winners in that area and there's losers in that area. And so you want to make sure you're identifying the opportunities for the winners. And so as we talk about the attraction cheat codes, we talked in the last episode about community and the importance right now in the COVID area of building a community and being the starter of that community, because there's so many people that don't know what to do They're just they're at a loss of what to do. And so there's not a lot of people that are out there saying, hey, this is what I want to do. And so even before COVID, I had this thing where I have a standing, and this is kind of disturbing, it's sad, but I had a standing meeting because there's this one cafe, I think it's like a block and a half, it's 2 blocks from the beach, right down the street from my old house. And I went there every Wednesday and I worked out. I worked there. I didn't work out there because it's a cafe, but I worked there every morning or every Wednesday morning, and has good food, great coffee, tons of electrical outlets. People there are awesome. It's a chill vibe. And it's like, all right, well, what happened is I was looking for a meetup group where there'd be similar people like me, where I could meet them. We could talk about the same goals. Maybe we're collaborating on similar things. I could help them out with things that I had learned how to do that in their eyes I'm the expert at. And at the same time, I'm looking for people, kind of be that same thing for me. But the problem is I went to all these meetup groups and it was a waste of time. I couldn't find anybody that was interested in kind of what I was looking for. The groups really weren't there. And I thought, well, this is stupid. Like, maybe I just need to do my own thing. And so instead of trying to make this meetup group where it's a super structured, exceptional entrepreneurs, where there's an agenda every week, I was just like, all right, I just want to meet people like me. This is where I normally am. So I'm just going to set up shop here, and I have a standing invitation. I have an event on Eventbrite, and we'll see what happens. And so every week we'd have people RSVP come by, and for the most part, I wasn't really a hit, but occasionally I'd meet people that, we had personally we fit, we get together, we get along really well, and have similar goals. And I can help them out things, and they can help me out things. And then COVID hit, right? So it turns out that the sad part that I was telling you about was the place I actually went back there because I figured, okay, the places are open again. I went back there and COVID did it in. And so the place is closed. So it sucked. I looked in there and I'm like, I can't believe this place is closed. This place has been around forever. So hopefully somebody buys it, takes advantage of the opportunity and redoes it. But the idea is, I want to be the person where I'm starting that community, where I'm going to be that leader, that thought leader, and to do what other people aren't doing. And I figure I'll just attract the type of people that I want to attract. And so that's the idea of community. But social proof is building on that. So the idea is that with social proof is that, and again, these are subconscious mental triggers that cause people to act. And so with social proof, it basically says when there is an uncertainty on the path to take, people will always go with the group decision. Because they don't want to look, basically they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look like an idiot. And so if they're not sure what to do, it's safer to do what the group does. Because look, if the group's wrong, then everybody's wrong, right? Then, you're not looking like an idiot because everybody's there. And if the group's right, then hey, there's no shirt off your back. But if all of a sudden, let's say there's 10 people in a group and 9 people say, hey, we should do this. And you stand up and go, that's stupid. Well, it turns out if they're right, then you look like a total idiot, and people don't, at least in your mind, you don't want to do that, right? But there's always a risk of okay, if the 9 people are wrong and you're right, there's a chance that you can come out and look right. But then what happens is you have 9 people that are kind of annoyed that they were all wrong and you're right. So they're not exactly going to be quick to rush to your side and go, wow, this guy or this girl was totally right. So it doesn't work out really well either way for the most part. Sometimes it does. And so with the idea with social proof is that if you can establish, kind of showing people a pattern of what people do, then they're going to most likely go along with it. And so if you look, and I have a background in advertising, professional advertising. So if you go into and look at any advertisement, whenever there's kind of people in groups, they're always going to show people doing it. So, and even if it's not in groups, you'll see a montage of people doing things. The idea is, let's say you go through a 30-second spot on TV. That's what we call it. A commercial is a spot. Then you have a montage, let's say, of 10 or 11 people in the period of 30 seconds. Then in somebody's mind, they see a group of people, although they're separate, kind of separate film clips of, whatever those people are, and they show people enjoying things. Then in their minds, it's like everybody's doing it. And the one that pops to mind, I'm not sure why, are those sandals commercials. And you can Google those commercials, but they'll show different couples in different villas drinking wine or walking on the beach or in an over the water um, bungalow. And it looks like everybody's going to sandals, but there's probably nobody going to sandals right now. But it looks like everybody's going to sandals, and it's a common thing. And so people start to feel like, okay, well, that's what people are doing. Um, Realistically, it's the same thing. Even in COVID, we start to do that, right? So it's like you have people that like they'll bring a mask with them, but they're not really sure if they should wear it. And I found this when we were on a road trip where I was in Solvang, and like I found myself doing it. I'm like, you don't really legally have to put on a mask on when you're walking down the sidewalk. But I was like, all right, well, if everybody in this town is wearing a mask on the sidewalk, then I'll probably do the same thing. And then on the same side, if everybody on the sidewalk isn't wearing a mask, then I probably won't do that either. And so I found myself like subscribing to this social proof. I mean, there wasn't somebody dictating the decision to be made, but there was a consensus on what to do. Now, obviously, if a business owner posts a sign and says, hey, listen, if you're going to come in my business, you need to wear a mask or use a hand sanitizer or whatever, then you want to do that and you want to be respectful of them, right? But I found myself doing that. And so that's the concept of social proof. So the question is, how can you do that? And we have other episodes where we talk about how to do that in kind of a non-COVID setting. But in the COVID setting, it's the same thing. People are so unsure the behaviors and what's normal and the mores and what's expected seem to change so often that people are always trying to figure out what is the right thing to do. And so the idea is you want to be able to dictate. It's really simple. The solution is you just have a very well thought out, firmly held belief on what you believe and what you should do. Because we're in a situation where people really have never been in this situation before and they don't know how to act. And so even from a business owner standpoint, let's say that you have business owners as your customers and they're trying to figure out what to do. I think as you're showing them, one of the things that I like doing is being what I call a virtual social proof is, and it kind of goes into storytelling, what we talked about in one of the prior episodes, is saying, listen, these are what I have customers just like you, and I love name dropping. This guy, this company, whatever it is, a very similar situation. I tell the story, what they're going through. It's kind of the hero's journey, the struggle they have, the point of decision, the decision, and then their success or failure. And one of the stories might be where somebody did really well, and this is the outcome of that decision. And then one of the things might be a negative outcome where, hey, this person decided not to do it on the flip side, and this is kind of what happened there. And so what happens is when you talk about that, and I think name dropping is fair, then you want to do it in bulk. And in advertising, there's a propaganda technique called card stacking. I was actually talking to my wife about this last week, and it's one of the most common propaganda techniques that people use in almost every setting. And most people don't even know they're using it. But the idea is you want to be able to have the numbers in favor of your argument be so strong that people don't even think of contesting it. And so I was telling her this story when I was actually in the FBI recruitment process a number of years ago. And so we were going through the office and we were actually walking out, and we got to this room that had this like number of like bronze stars on, I think they were bronze, but bronze stars on the wall. And I don't know, there were probably 50 of them, maybe 40, weren't that many. And I said, what are the stars for? And she said, well, those are one star for every FBI agent that's been killed in duty. And I thought, that's really not a lot of stars. I said, why is it so few? She said, well, because we go in with such overwhelming force that when somebody pulls a gun, there's so many agents with so much force that they immediately give up. And so they generally don't face a lot of losses to their agents because the overwhelming force is so strong. And so with social proof, the idea is the same thing, especially when you pair it with card stacking, is that you're describing a narrative to people, and when they're inside, they're unsure exactly what to do and how to act, that they immediately will respond to that. And one of the ways you can tell, one of the quick ways you can tell that it worked, is that when you do that, they're immediately going to ask a question, not a skeptical question, but just a question for reassurance. And so you might tell somebody, it's like, okay, well, if they're like most people, like they're debating on, I have clients boom, I'll name their first names they're debating on, like they lost their job, they're struggling, this is the conversation they're having at home, and they're debating whether or not, let's say they're an insurance agent, to cancel their insurance. And so these are the thoughts that they're going through. These are the questions they went through. These are I help them walk them through certain things to make sure that, kind of a black swan event like COVID isn't going to cost them their life insurance or, what have you. And so what happens is they'll immediately ask a question and they'll say, well, what do they do in the event of boom? That's when you know that immediately had worked. So the idea is that it's almost like you're bringing all those people into a room and literally lining them up and saying, these people right here are all people who agree with what I'm telling you. But the problem is they're not right there. But in the person's mind, it's as if they're there. And that's the idea of social proof. So you're pairing a little bit of the community we talked about, a lot of the storytelling we're talking about, and a propaganda technique, you can Google it, called card stacking, which is just bringing in kind of what my friend at the FBI said was bringing in such overwhelming rhetorical, well, she didn't say rhetorical, but overwhelming rhetorical force that really they don't have any ability to have confidence in a competing argument, that they're just completely outnumbered. And what happens is then they start to ask questions because they're not sure exactly the specifics of the first couple steps to proceed. And when they ask you those type of questions, that's a sign that it works. And at that point, you kind of want to guide them by the hand and, kind of have a soft touch and make sure that, kind of they have a full understand that you really have their best interests at heart, and actually walk them to the decision. And most times they will do it. So with that being said, that is our topic on social proof. Now, in our next episode, we're going to talk about one of my favorite attraction cheat codes. And again, I always say they're my favorite, but I do like them a lot. And this one is one, I just think it may not be one of my favorites, be fair. Like, I really, really love it, but if we're going to be fair, I have a couple, like 3 or 4 really favorites. But this is like, gosh, almost made the cut. But it's really, really good. And it probably is one of the 2 or 3 most powerful attraction cheat codes we have. And we're going to talk about that next week, the cheat code of curiosity. And I will leave it there hanging because it's curiosity. And we're going to execute that well. So I'll see you next week. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.